we've been talking about the wisdom of God. Now, we spent the last 3 days actually talking about ungodly wisdom, or wisdom that is not like God's wisdom. And one of the statements that we've made is that the wisdom of God is always superior to the wisdom of man. We talked in our last podcast about how there is earthly wisdom. Now, earthly wisdom is the wisdom you get if you've touched a hot stove. It's earthly. And we also talked about wisdom that comes from in the soulish area. And it's wisdom that comes from experiences. And sometimes those experiences have caused fear, and they've caused other negative soulish experiences. And we say, well, that's wisdom. Well, that's not the wisdom of God. And then there's those who deal with demonic wisdom. The very source of that wisdom is the devil. And now in verse number 16, it says, where there is jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there is disorder and every evil thing. Now, let me ask you a question. Can you see wisdom? No, you cannot see wisdom. You know, James has talked about it, about faith, and he says, you show me your faith by your works. And wisdom is the same way. You can't see wisdom, but you can see the results of wisdom. You can see what wisdom produces. Now here, James is still talking about wisdom that's not from God. Now, in our next podcast, and maybe even later in this one, we're going to begin to talk about the wisdom of God. But notice what he says. He's already told us that selfish ambition and jealousy are two sources of ungodly wisdom. But he says, where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, he says, now here is what you see. And the first thing that he says, there is disorder. If you see an organization, and this organization is in disorder, in other words, it's not operating in the order that God has given it. And things are going here and going there. You know, I've traveled and gone to many churches, and I've been in churches where the people are just out of order. There is no order. They jump from one thing to another thing to another thing to another thing. The pastor goes off and he goes to a conference, and all of a sudden he comes back with a new idea, and he says, okay, we're changing everything. And all of that imbalance and all of that disorder is not a good place for spiritual growth. And the reason why we see disorder is because of jealousy and selfish ambition. Jealousy and selfish ambition. Now, James is writing to the Jewish people. He's writing to Jewish believers in the area of Judea. And James is seeing this happen. He's seeing people who were Jewish believers, but he's seeing this selfish ambition, and he's seeing this jealousy, and he's seeing it because he sees disorder happening. You see, you can't see selfish ambition. You can't see jealousy with your natural eyes. But you can see the results of jealousy. You can see the results of selfish ambition. And what is that result? It's disorder. You know what? Let me just say this to you. Wherever you're at, if they're jumping from one thing to another, to another, to another, and they are not maintaining the vision that God has given, you know what? The problem is that there's selfishness and jealousy involved in that organization. Constantly jumping, going from here to there. Beware. That is not the wisdom of God. That is wisdom that has come, or not even wisdom, it's foolishness, I should say, that's come because of selfish ambition, and it's come because of jealousy. Now, the next thing that James says here, he says there's disorder, and then he adds to it every evil thing. You know, it's amazing to me as I've watched human behavior and as I've studied in college and things like that, that you can trace things back to several different sources. But one of those or two of those sources is selfish ambition and jealousy. Out of selfish ambition and jealousy comes disorder. We talked about that. But it also, there comes every evil thing. Every evil thing. You see, we need to be extremely aware that we understand that this wisdom that comes, or not even wisdom, I keep using this word, but this foolishness that comes from selfish ambition and jealousy, that it's going to continue to produce all types of evil. Let me ask you a question. Look at the track record of your life. Has your life been producing evil things? Now, evil, it would actually mean anything that's bad, anything that's immoral. Is your life producing those types of things? Those types of things many times come because you're jealous and because you have a selfish ambition, or an ambition that's totally centered around self. Those things are not the wisdom of God. Those are evidences of the wisdom that comes from the world, a wisdom that comes from your soul, or possibly even the wisdom that has its source in the demonic areas. You say, well, what do I do? How do I get rid of it? Well, first of all, you get rid of the problem by repenting and by saying, God, I'm wrong, by confessing that you're wrong, and then saying and making a decision, God, I'm going to deal with my jealousy, and I'm going to deal with selfish ambition as you give me the strength to do it. And you know what's going to happen? You might have to deal with some disorder until you get everything straightened out. It's not going to happen instantly, but you're going to be able to make the changes. So brothers and sisters, deal with selfishness and deal with jealousy, because it is deadly. I hope that this has helped you today. I hope you join us again tomorrow as we continue our study through this wonderful book of James.